Hey guys, this is SB McWilliams, and making a video for my pals at my gunsmithing site on Facebook. And first video I ever made, so bear with me, but it's not like I'm getting paid for this info. So I wanted to show you some of the things that you need for doing some rust bluing, just basic tools, and then I'll add to this video as I move forward. The main thing you'll find with doing rust bluing is metal finish quality is important, and the most important thing to success is metal cleanliness, because without having an oil-free surface or a contaminant-free surface, the acid won't bond to the metal in a smooth way. And I'll probably have a few videos on this, and I'll show my application techniques and some of the other tips and tricks that I've learned. I do want to qualify this by saying I'm not a gunsmith at all, just a guy that wanted to learn how to do it. So like many things in life, I just started doing it and read everything that I could find on the internet, which is not a lot, and then, you know, some stuff you read from guys isn't necessarily always 100% accurate. So, but some of the things you need for doing this are on the table here, and I'll give you some of my recommendations just from experience. But for the application of the acid, I started off with cotton balls, but these little makeup things actually work better. Typically wet it through here, which I'll show you in another video, and fold it in half. And the main reason I don't use cotton balls is because these tend to not leave any strands behind like a normal cotton ball does. One thing that you'll find is on some things you don't want to go cheap, and but these are pretty consistent. I you know, get them at Walmart or America shops in the ladies makeup section, and they work pretty good. Another thing is baking soda. At the end of the process, you're going to be immersing the metal in baking soda water mix, and also at the end of your stripping that is effectively done with acid. So what you want to do is make sure that you always stop the process when you desire to stop the process. The sad thing is if you don't stop the process, the acids that you're using can alter the surface quality of the gun, make it erode, so to speak, and it'll turn into a rough texture, or literally pit and rust very quickly. Another thing I use pretty exclusively is brake parts cleaner. Not the most environmentally wonderful thing to use, but at the end of the day, I've tried all kinds of things to get the surface as clean as I'd like. I'm sure some other guys will chime in when I post this and reveal what they use. There's various soaps, degreasers, environmentally friendly, and all this, but at the end of the day, the greatest success I've had is with brake parts cleaner, and it doesn't take a lot. There's other solvents you can use, you know, from acetone to varnish, VMP naphtha, MEK, just a variety of different things. For really tough stuff, there are some other chemicals out there, and when it comes to mind, I'll tell you what it is. And that literally dissolve anything that's there. So this is getting into the actual rust bluing tools themselves. This is what's known as a carding wheel. You can get it from Midway USA, or you can get it from Brunel's. I've got mine from Brunel's. Sometimes there are actually shortages of these. Sounds funny, but they're usually short when you need them the most. The needles, as you can see, are extremely fine. They are actually 3000s stainless steel. They kind of have the they don't have a wire feel to them at all. They actually have a, they feel like more like a fake Christmas tree needle than anything else. I've always gotten the 4 rows. The other one is a 2 row, so it's up to you. I've always used the 4 row. I like the 4 row. Maybe if I had some small nooks or crannies to get into, I might like it. But you can change the pitch of the barrel against the edge here and get any spot you want. And then for really hard to reach places, you can use I call it quad zero steel wool. And that's the other thing. You don't have to have a carding wheel. You can do this on the cheap. I forget what these cost, 20 or 30 bucks. And I mount mine on. I have a floor drill press that I'll show you in a minute, and I'll show you how I do it, how I put the bolt in this. But you technically don't have to have that. These take the I'll call it an oxide and off very quickly, and I'll show that to you in the future. I've done it by hand. I'll do it by hand for small parts, and with the steel wool, and it works fine. It just takes more elbow grease, and if you're willing to put more elbow grease into it, so be it. The other thing is with regard to steel wool. Steel wool is one of those things. I mean, you can go cheap if you want to. This came from Woodcraft. Woodcraft, is like a higher quality wood supply outfit. And the reason I like this is when it comes on a roll, and I can just cut it to length, and you don't need much. This will last you a really long time. But what you may not know is that most steel wools are impregnated with oil to prevent corrosion or rusting of the steel wool material. This from Woodcraft is not. You have to look at their site. I don't remember what the brand name is, but I really like it. If you go cheap, and I'll use Harbor Freight as an example for cheap. I buy a lot of stuff from Harbor Freight, so I'm not criticizing them. It's just some of their stuff is not what you want to use. They have a lot of oil in it, and then another nasty habit they have is the fibers can frequently break apart and kind of contaminate your stuff. So at the end of the day, this stuff's kind of expensive, but it lasts a long time. It doesn't have any oil in it. If you do get the cheaper stuff, which you're welcome to do, I used it for a long time, you're going to want to take your brake parts cleaner again and saturate it and over a paper towel, and you'll see the oil coming out of the material. And so I just wanted to eliminate that step. So I really like this, but you certainly don't have to use it. And if you clean it with brake parts cleaner, a couple of times, it dries extremely quickly, and you'll have success with it. It's just I wouldn't necessarily do that. If you're doing one gun, okay. The other thing that you'll find comes in handy is this is actually a tea container, literally for the drink tea. And it's a tea basket, and I put a lot of the small parts in this. This one's one of my broken ones. I got another one with a latch on it. They come with a latch. On some of the, certainly, some of the historic guns I've worked on, last thing you want to do is lose a part, and you'll see when you're boiling a lot of water and dumping these parts in, you'll definitely want them in the basket. And then the nice thing is that it never leaves the basket. I mean, I open this up, I have the parts on one side, and then as I run the steel wool over them to effectively card them. I'll apply acid again, and it goes in the right side. Same drill, just kind of like you were reloading. You're putting powder in and moving it over. Close it up, and then I literally hang this inside my humidity box that you'll see in a moment. So that's a really good thing to have. You know, my wife gave me those. I don't know where you I'm a guy. I don't know where you get one of these, you know, but I'm sure she would tell me if I asked her, but I haven't needed to ask her yet. I'm sure Kohl's or Macy's or someplace like that. Another thing I want to emphasize is related to generic sandpaper. You'll see that I use 3M only, and you'll see that almost specifically 99% of the time you're going to be using 320 or higher. And I can't emphasize this enough. What you have to remember is that the process we're going to be using, similar to what this old Mauser barrel has on it, I mean, this is just normal rust. Ultimately, rust is our friend. Scratches are not. Now, you can buff this with 320, and you won't reveal that 320, those 320 lines that are etched in the metal with rust bluing. You just physically won't see it. And because the reality of it is that corrosion that takes place on the surface of the metal when we rust it provides about a 320 grit finish. So if you stay at 320 or above, you're good. If you drop below 320, assume that you're bad. And those scratches that you create with like using a 220 grit or worse, a 150, you're going to see them in your final product. The only correction I would make to that, and it's really not a correction, it's a fact, is that if you are doing a repair, obviously if the barrel has a deep scratch in it, and you have to, you know, there's only one way to get that out, is to go to lower grits. But even if that is the case, I would always start with 320 and then work my way down, not start with like an 80 and work your way up. You're going to create a lot more work for yourself. If you get into a gun like this guy, and I'm not sure if this is a Spanish Mauser or what it is, but some of the German Mausers I've done, this receiver is profoundly hard. I mean, stupid hard. And if you start scratching it up, you will pay a penalty in labor time on your part and frustration getting those scratches out. Clearly, if it comes with scratches and you got to get the scratches out, you do what you got to do. And again, you're working back up to that 320 grit again. Like I said, I use 3M paper. And the key thing in this, when you're in the realm of 320, is you want to go with open coat. Open coat is wonderful. It doesn't clog up like any of the cheap Harbor Freight sandpapers do. One other note about cheap sandpaper is cheap sandpaper, emery cloth, also has frequently oils in it that can contaminate the surface again. And they are not necessarily true to grit. Most of their stuff comes from China. The China is not a bastion of quality control. With a 3M product, you can feel quite confident that 320 is indeed 320 and not 320 with a mix of 220 thrown in from the tool that they used last night. And like I said, even though you pay a premium for it on the purchase because it's open coat, you really get a lot of use out of it, and it doesn't clog up as fast, and you certainly don't need to wet sand with it unless you desire to. And then this paper actually has, this one doesn't. You can also get this paper where it has a tacky finish to it, and when you fold it over on itself, it actually has a subtle binding to it. It's nice to work with. You have to use gloves at all times. I typically use nitrile. These are some I got free from someplace. These are vinyl. Before you touch any of the metal, you're always going to want to put a fresh pair on. I go through gloves like crazy because every iteration I'm putting fresh gloves on. Anytime you're going to touch the material, you're going to put fresh gloves on. I save them, I use them once, and then I flip them in a box, and then when I'm changing my oil or I got some other activity where it doesn't matter, you know, I reuse them again. But you always want to use a fresh pair of gloves. Don't use powder coated. Powder coated is annoying. It'll literally dry out your hands, and you can see mine. And it's gone on for 2 years and I can't get rid of it. You're going to want a quality mask. I mean, this is quality in my opinion. Don't buy the cheap ones. Buy something that costs you $3 a piece or something. And you're going to use this when you're at the carding wheel. For the rust bluing solution, I started off using Pilkington. That's what this bottle is that you get at Burnell's, and also I think Midway as well. And then for money's sake, because this is about half the price of this, it's like something like $30 a bottle. This is 14 or 15. I thought I'd give it a go and try Burnell's, and Burnell's is every bit as good as the Pilkingtons. I don't think Burnell's is in the business of mixing acids. I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's the same product, but strongly recommend Burnell's. But there's nothing wrong with the Pilkingtons either. I had good luck with that. They have some pretty good instructions in there. This frequently goes on sale. I don't recall ever seeing this on sale, so I bought like 3 bottles. Safety glasses is a given. For fine work, these are kind of relatively expensive, but I've seen them. You shop around, you can get a cheap pair of magnifying lenses. You gotta hurry because I'm running out of time. Another thing is I always have a light nearby. One thing that you can never do is, in addition to the #1 rule, which is cleanliness, is being able to see what you're doing, and also being able to have good illumination is extremely important. Sorry for the rotation. As you can see, I do this in my garage. I got about a probably 10 by 15 foot area dedicated to this kind of stuff. This is my floor drill press. I mean, you can use a tabletop if you wanted to, and it's worked out great. I got this on some Chinese thing for 150 bucks, and I've had it for a decade, and it works great. I put a 1/4-inch bolt through the wheel, not on the flip side. It's a carriage bolt on the side, and then I chuck it up in here. Main thing with these is you don't want to use them. You don't want to do the metal when it comes out of the boil tank when it's wet. This one I've done several guns on already, and you'll see it starts to get kind of knotted up a little bit. It still keeps going and going. It doesn't really matter for a while anyway. But what you'll find is if you do the barrel when it's wet, it will kind of coagulate the dust and moisture, and then these start bonding to each other instead of having a separate strand. And then I like to, after each job, I usually hit this with brake cleaner to make sure if there's any residual garbage on it, especially oils or anything that may have come, that is clean. Then I got 2 more things to show you, and then we'll pick up with another video. This is just an old toolbox. I call this my humidity tank, or it's an old patio box that somebody had got at a garage sale for probably $5. Some guys make these out of wood. I put a couple hangers in here, and then you're going to want a humidity gauge. Don't go cheap on a humidity gauge. They're about, I think, $7 or $8, maybe less. But you can find a Petco. They're usually in the lizard or snake section. And this is my steam pot, I call it. The steam pot is basically just another piece of cookware, but it's nice because it has a variable gauge on it. I have a white line and a small line there where I match it. You rarely come out of warm. The key thing with the humidity tank is any of your rusting is going to be done between 60 and 80%. If it's below 60%, you end up with too little humidity, and if it's above 80, you'll end up getting kind of a wet, crusty rust. Although it'll still blue, it's kind of nasty to get off. It's not the way you want to go, and it's not, it's just not appropriate. So you want to manage that. The reason I just have a small crack here to let the steam out, and then I put a paper towel over it, and all I'm really doing there is capturing effectively the big droplets that may escape. They tend to collect up underneath here, or the, you know, the heavier humidity. So it, you know, I call it atomizing, but it helps make a, only allows the kind of the finer mist to kind of get up inside the tank. Water, if you get too much humidity, which you occasionally do, you're going to make mistakes. You'll get the walls wet. That's not a big deal per se, but when it gets on the ceiling up here, it can drip down on the firearm, and then you'll end back up with those heavy, crusty, kind of rusty areas, and that's not what you want. And I'll show you some pictures in the future, or maybe even another video of me at work, and so you can see what wet and crusty looks like. That's all I can think of on that one right now, but if I recall something else, I'll tell you about it. This is my homemade boil tank. You guys can laugh if you want to, but it doesn't get much cheaper than this. It's an old grill. What I did was, you know, necessity breeds invention. So I just got my cutoff tool. I cut a notch in it, and then the boil tank is iron. I've heard mixed reviews on going stainless or iron. I bought the iron because it was 75 bucks versus 150, but there are some electrical qualities or differences that take place between stainless steel and the iron part that you're boiling, that may influence finish. I don't know if that's true or not. I'd be interested to try, because this is kind of a messy thing to do, because you know, obviously heat and moisture generate kind of a rusty oxide on a tank that gets in the water, and then it coats your parts. It really isn't a big issue. I mean, I've been dealing with it forever. The big thing with this is, ideally, I'd like to have a rig that has burners completely underneath. This acts as a tremendous heat sink, so it's dumping any heat you're dumping into it, which is why I've got this automotive thermal protection. Got this out of the garbage at work. We do semi trucks, so this is like a exhaust. Has fiberglass insulation in it, and all I was trying to do was slow down the heat dissipation that the tank does. Lid helps a lot. This is just aluminum I cut out from the toolbox. Got some more thermal stuff. It wasn't real rigid, so I put this aluminum on it, and then just to focus the flame a little bit from coming out around, I used the gutter material. So now the magic of this is, I've got this underneath a window. I've got some lights installed, and this is a wonderful gift my buddy gave me, which is a stove hood. So when I'm cooking, you know, obviously if it's warm, the garage door's open, but then I just crack this window, and the fumes are captured here, and you're only boiling for 10 minutes anyway, so it's not a big deal. But anyway, Joe, I hope this helps you, and I hope it helps others to understand what I'm doing from a tool perspective, and then I'll do another video in the future, and I hope this benefits the guys on Gunsmith Facebook.